Hi everyone. Today I want to talk about Lockmaster, which is Vent's lockpick brand and is an offering from Germany. Before I begin, I'd like to say that I don't recommend buying, and that is hard to say for me because these products are very good. So why don't I recommend them? Well, that's because they're A, expensive at about €5.50 per pick, and outside of the EU they cost a lot to ship. €25 to the USA and €40 to Australia. €40 to the Australians being $70 and €25 to America being about 35-ish US dollars. And quite frankly, that is way too much. Not when Australia, or rather when Australia has offerings like Bare Bones, which is domestic, when the US has Jimmy Longs domestically. Even Great Britain probably has to deal with import tax, and they have low lock tools. And sadly enough, even the EU has a better offering for enthusiasts in Moki. So that's the problems with these. But there's a lot of good to say. There's a lot of good. Obviously, this is not their entire product listing. This is only what I got in the Master kit, which is some, let's see, €134 less VAT, which means, because obviously I am not in the EU, I did not have to pay the 10% VAT tax on top. I don't think it's 10%, it's something bigger than that. But I didn't have to pay tax on goods and services for this because I don't live in the EU. There's all sorts of picks and profiles, from flat rounded hooks to flat hooks to even these weird notched picks, which are claimed to be for pin placement. I personally don't find much use. They are targeted more towards locksmiths, which makes sense because they use what they call German spring steel. In actuality, it's some 301, maybe full hard, or something that's tempered slightly differently to full hard maybe. It's not high yield, basically, is what I'm saying. What I think Lockmaster shines with, because their picks are fine. They have picks. They are functional, they are not awful, but as I said, you have offerings like Bones, which will do similar profiles. You have Jimmy Longs, you have Moki, which, if you overlay this DeForest Diamond, is slightly deeper actually than Moki's. Put Moki's in front here, and you can see slightly more, or slightly different angle, I suppose, than Moki's. But I think Moki's are nicer because of the finish and the the utility involved, and then low lock tools. So the picks are fine, but what I think they excel in are tensioners. Now, tensioners are a bit of an interesting thing to talk about, because obviously if you just grab wiper blades and make them yourself, they're probably going to be the same. But they do come in different thicknesses, 1.1 millimeter, 1 millimeter and thinner, 0.9, 0.8. They also have short wiper blade tensioners. Again, 1 millimeter, 1.1 millimeter, which I find very useful. And they are one of 3 brands off the top of my head who do thicker than, maybe 4 technically if you include Sparrows. One of 4 brands that I know of that do thicker than 50 thousandths with a 65 and 80 thousandths. Maybe this is even just 60 thousandths and 80 thousandths of an inch tensioners. Or 1.5 and 2 millimeter, which is important to note that although they have teeth, they're very, very minimal. And actually, I think that having, less teeth, or no teeth in fact, is nicer, because if we take a Lockmaster tensioner, you'll see that it is completely bare on the short side. On the long side they do have teeth. On this multi-pick tensioner, on both sides they are bare. And on, on other tensioners like this, which is also from multi-pick but is the generic pry bar style tensioner. You don't even need me to show you, but they do have teeth. Teeth present an interesting problem, because the theory of a tensioner is that teeth will get you to stick inside of a keyway. So let's say we have this Medico. Oh, it's another Medico that I've apparently picked and I haven't put back. That's okay. The idea is that you put your tensioner in, and with teeth, well, I should probably do it with the tensioner with teeth. With teeth, it will not fall out. And I wanted to comment on that by saying that it's a fallacy. It is not true. Tensioners will fall out with or without teeth, because it is a skill of the user to be able to keep their tensioner in. Now, what can actually stop that? Well, what can stop your tensioners from coming out is a good fit. A good fitment means there will be less slipping downwards, and they will stay controlling the core normally. Even if you do not have a good fit, my personal recommendation is that when you are tensioning, if you're in a vise, because it's quite hard to do this in hand, you pull up and as you tension, so up and to the right or up and to the left, and you'll actually get more precise tension because you're already providing some amount of pressure on the tensioner, and it will stay inside of the lock. It doesn't matter if you have or have not got teeth. Which, I think is good that these, I would say their teeth are so insignificant that you might as well say that they don't. And that is, as I said, tensioners are what Lockmaster really excel in. But as I said, they're expensive. A single tensioner from these guys costs €3. That's about $5 Australian. One of these guys, €3. The price of this tensioner, probably quite similar. The cost of a wiper blade from your car, $0. The price of a wiper blade off the streets, $0. the price of buying spring steel stock from your local hardware store. $10 maybe. And you'll get much, much larger rolls than this. So that's kind of the tragedy of a lot of new, or rather old, lockpick brands. The new stuff is better. Better steel, better finish, better product type. You can just snap this metal off and you have a second pick if this ever bends or breaks. These profiles, I would argue, are more functional. Thinner shank can reach into more keyways whilst being stronger with a better steel. There is cheaper, with still full tang designs, nice handles, very usable profiles, and the steel is still stronger. You have availability. Different countries, they are able to domestically ship. Again, nicer finish. These are tumbled, these are also tumbled, but they have some sort of different tumbling, or maybe it's a finer grit, or maybe they're tumbled for longer. Again, nice handle, thinner shank, profiles, whatever you like, in nicer steel. So Lockmaster, unfortunately, falls into the same category as a lot of the older companies. Peterson falls into this, but their CEO, owner, is a bit of a cunt, so we'll just ignore that. They have good products from a time where locksmiths were the focus, and locksmiths could afford to spend more money because locksmiths had more money, because locksmiths were able to put this onto their tax write-offs. You know, if you spend $100 on a set of tools that you use at your work, that's $100 you get back at the end of the financial year. And nowadays, so many people are enthusiasts. So many people are pushing themselves to pick the hardest locks possible. This is a Corbin Russwin M Hard, previously thought to be, well, maybe not unpickable at the time of release, but certainly very tricky to pick. Medico. Back in the 1960s, 1970s, they held a competition that anyone who could consistently open one of these would win $10,000. I need to find a time machine to go back to then, because that $10,000 is probably worth about $150 now. Let's see. Even Lockwoods. These are everywhere in Australia. They're harder to pick than you would expect, certainly harder to pick than a master lock, and similar price. Made of heavier, made with a heavier body, thicker shackle, quite a pick resistant core. Locksmiths probably dealt with this all the time back, and even still do, and probably would have used these just fine on them, but unfortunately, well, this is just a stepping stone for a lot of enthusiasts nowadays, and these tools are relic of the past. They are expensive and unfortunately are generally inferior to modern offerings. It's just a truth of the evolution of the climate, of the environment. When there is a market, then there are people who will bring innovation. And that's kind of sad. That's kind of sad for these older brands, but it's healthy for the community, it's healthy for creators. And unfortunately, that is why I cannot recommend Lockmaster, whilst I will still actually say that their products are good. So thank you for watching.